And hello, everybody. Welcome to today's post daily news update. My name is Wai Ting, and I am filling in for John Pollock because, as those of you who would have listened to yesterday on Rwanda Dynamite, both of his kids are sick right now. So he'll be tending to the both of them, and I'm sure trying to avoid getting sick himself all day. But he will be back with me tomorrow. But today, joining me, Kate from Montreal. Welcome back, Kate.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. Wish it were in happier circumstances. I hope that John and his kids, his whole family, are feeling better very soon.
Yeah, as always, we appreciate you jumping in and stepping in last second. And as always, I look forward to the discussion that we're about to have. We always, every time I'm in
Me
charge,
too.
I don't think I know how to edit myself. So I always load these things with probably way too much news, and that'll be the case today. So let's
There's
get to
just
it.
so much news around.
As always, let's just get to it first. Some sad news off the top here, and that comes in the form of an unfortunate announcement of somebody passing away. 30 plus year Japanese wrestling veteran Masashi Aoyagi has passed away at the age of 65. His feud with Atsushi Onita in 1989, in which he represented karate against Onita's pro wrestling, was crucial for the beginnings of Onita's FMW promotion. Aoyagi also had a 4-year run in New Japan and a 14.5-year run in Pro Wrestling Noah, with his final match taking place in August of last year. A barbed wire current blast bat, current blast table, and barricade mat mine blast board gunpowder triple hell death match for
And a
Onita's
partridge in a pear tree.
FMWE promotion, of course, also involving Atsushi Onita himself. Our condolences to the family and friends of Masashi Aoyagi. Some other news here off the top. This one just kind of breaking right before we decided to go on air here, and that involves Sasha Banks and Naomi. According to Mike Johnson of PW Insider, Sasha Banks and Naomi have been removed from WWE's internal roster. Now, this does not indicate whether they've been officially released, but does seem to at least track with ongoing discussion, at least in regards to Sasha Banks' continued disassociation with the company. Kate, if this indicates anything further, how do you feel about both women's statuses in the company, and in particular, Naomi, who I don't think really gets talked about enough in these discussions?
She doesn't, and I would say that she is perhaps more vulnerable in terms of securing a future in professional wrestling. She does not. I think that almost anyone would be less vulnerable than or more vulnerable than Sasha Banks. I don't know if this is something she wants to continue with professional wrestling. I don't. She would be less likely to me to make the jump to say an AEW or Stardom, and that's no knock on her talent. It's just sort of the state of the industry right now is that there are many top level talents out there, and I hope she does well. I always thought that she was undervalued in WWE, as a lot of people are, and she's very capable. She has this natural charisma. I thought that she would be a successor to Bailey when Bailey turned heel, that she could do that sort of super positive character who would appeal to younger fans, and particularly little girls. And you saw hints of that, but it's just they seem to choose never to pull the trigger with her. I think that Sasha's obviously a huge loss. Naomi's a big loss for them as well, um, because they need someone like that. They need people who can hold down their women's division. I think that women's division has been exposed lately. And also, there are increasing issues with diversity on the main roster women's division in WWE. I believe Bianca Belair is the only African American woman left on the main roster.
Yeah, you know, to me, I always felt like Sasha, her mm, strengths probably lied outside of the industry. I don't know if I've had the same thoughts with Naomi. I don't even know if I've had any thoughts about her having any sort of wrestling life outside of the company. Certainly, like she is of a name that I think would benefit any company that's out there right now. But given her familial ties, and I think just kind of given her growing up in the whole system in the WWE, she seemed to be like somebody who was set for this system from the get go. So it'll be really interesting to see, if this gets resolved on her end, with the WWE, or if she finds other opportunities elsewhere. But I didn't think we'd be talking about it this far, this deep into it. Like when this whole thing began, I just figured eventually it would resolve itself relatively quickly.
It's this weird, almost slow motion car crash that's happening, where it's just there's little dribs and drabs coming out at a time that is not typical of WWE either. Normally, you'll get you might get some kind of hint that someone's been released, and then almost immediately you get the future endeavors message. But this is really, it's slow, and there's a lot of there's a
Mystery.
lot of delay between each new kind of piece of news. It's surprising.
If any new information comes out regarding this, of course, we will be talking about it tomorrow here on Post Daily News. Moving on to New Japan Pro
Okay,
Wrestling. Oh, something wrong? Did I drop out for you, Kate? So we might have lost Kate's audio here. So Kate is going to connect back with me. But in the meantime, I will be talking to you about the latest involving New Japan Professional Wrestling here. They just recently held their business strategy presentation, which, Kate, let me see if I can bring you back. Can you hear me right now?
I can hear now. Sorry, my sound just went totally dead.
Not a problem. Not a problem. You did not miss anything, because I'm about to talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling's business strategy presentation. This took place on Thursday morning here, our time, but I suppose Thursday night over in Japan. A lot of news coming out from New Japan. They hosted this on YouTube and also New Japan World, with a number of notes here coming to us for the full write-up here. Thank you to Andrew Thompson. You can find that at postwrestling.com, link in the description below. Highlights include President Takami Obari making mention frequently of a forbidden door being one of the highlights of New Japan's 2022 business so far. They touted their ability to make New Japan Strong a viable sub-brand in the United States, which has also allowed the company to operate in both Japan and the United States. There was also a lot of talk about them wanting to grow talent from a younger age, citing the increasing median age of their current roster and pointing out the successes of Stardom talents such as AZM and Starlight Kid as reasons for wanting to start talent at a younger age. It seemed to indicate some sort of program that they want to create that'll help talents transition from college directly into a New Japan Pro Wrestling ring, which sounds similar to WWE's Next in Line thing that's been going on. Before we move on to some other notes, any thoughts on perhaps that aspect of it, Kate?
I'm very curious to see what happens. I think I've been very impressed with what they've done with New Japan Strong. I think that now it creates the viable option if they want to send people over for much quicker, I want to say internships. That's not the excursions. They have the opportunity to do that in the United States, to send them over, work primarily with Strong, but also allow them to work with some independents there, as opposed to just sort of trying to set this up necessarily with other promotions. I'm very much looking forward to. I think that bringing people from Stardom over to New Japan Strong is an excellent idea. In both ways. It gives the Stardom talent a chance to get some recognition in the U.S., but also Stardom has had a lot of buzz in the last year or so, and I think there is this appetite among U.S. wrestling fans and North American wrestling fans to see some of the Stardom performers.
Let's talk a little bit more about Stardom, because regarding Stardom, there was a big push towards breaking gender boundaries of professional wrestling in Japan, similar to the way that it is worldwide here. A particular note is the announcement, as Kate mentioned, that Stardom talents will be featured in New Japan America shows going forward, with no particular dates announced yet. So it seems like we have at least a venue through Bushi Road of Stardom talent, at least, performing live here in America. Obari also clarified that the New Japan X Stardom event in November that will be taking place in Japan will feature 2 mixed tag matches with rules similar to WWE's, where only men and women can be in the ring at the same time. So continued integration of Stardom with Bushi Road and New Japan Pro Wrestling. I think something that we were all looking for years now at this point. It's cool to hear that at least, Obari seems to indicate that they're looking towards outside of Japan as sort of like the model of what they want professional wrestling to be, rather than maybe, sticking to the very kind of gendered, and it's been working fine, but like I think we all, at least on this side of the world, want to see a bit more integration for Stardom with New Japan, at least on the cards, or at least just a bigger presence for Stardom here in general.
Mm-hmm.
They also announced plans to return to the UK in October, as well as wanting to run more events in Oceania. And perhaps the most newsworthy point coming out of this one, Vocal Cheering will be returning to New Japan at 2 events on September 5th and September 6th in Korakuen Hall. These will be half-capacity crowds, which is one of the requirements in Japan in certain venues to allow for cheering audiences. Now, this does follow Cyberfight lifting cheering restrictions today, actually, with limited capacity as at their DDT free show, which just took place. I think coming off of this, there was, at least I saw, a lot of disappointment from people that restrictions aren't being lifted in time for the G1. I think it's also important to note that, it does appear to be a case where ticket sales have to be sacrificed to allow for atmosphere. And knowing how crucial the G1 events are, maybe to New Japan's business, maybe understandable. What are your thoughts, Kate?
I think that I remember when I realized that at Forbidden Door that was the first time in like 2 years that those performers had heard people cheering, and that must have been remarkable. Look, the restrictions are what they are. I understand that there's some disappointment, but that's not really within New Japan's control. I would much rather see them err on the side of caution. And again, I think that it continues to be a big issue. And I think it's almost disguised because we're so used to hearing about the pandemic that we've lost a sense of how prevalent it still is. So I'm glad to know that they will be, that they are bringing it back. Yeah, it's disappointing that it's not.
May have
a couple more months.
You just dropped off a little bit there, Kate, with your last thought, if you don't mind just repeating that.
Oh, I was sorry about that. I was just going to say that we've gone a couple of years without hearing cheers in Japan. We can go a couple more months.
So that is the latest involving New Japan Pro Wrestling. Of course, we'll have plenty of coverage of the G1 taking place, as well as everything to do with New Japan and Pro Wrestling and Stardom, of course, on the site, courtesy of Karen Peterson, who is in the chat room. She's got some thoughts about the press conference. I just want to highlight some of that. Karen says, it was a great presentation, very informative. I'm hoping that the dojo system would be more open to it. I think, she also says, I think they would also need to think up of a separate branding name for the shows that feature Stardom in the US. So we shall see what happens there. Okay, moving on here to the UK, where we will be talking about the Wrestling Entertainment Series. After delaying its event from its original date last month, the Wrestling Entertainment Series has now fully canceled its event this Saturday in Nottingham, with the group issuing the following statement. Dear fans and followers, unfortunately, we will have to cancel the event scheduled for this Saturday at the Motorpoint Arena in Nottingham, England. We are deeply disappointed in the news that we have to share, but with so many talent not showing up, we will have no choice than to cancel the event. Our team worked so hard on this event day in and day out for the fans to come with a different type of wrestling event, and believe that we still will be able to show that in the near future. We do want to say that all our talent that was scheduled had been paid in full, and that Lena Fanon was paid her deposit as well, while she changed her mind and did not want to show up and wrestle anymore. For now, we will have to apologize for this, but we promise that it will not end here. See you soon. Of course, this is in regards to recent allegations and tweets from talent that were appearing on the show or advertised to appear on the show, including Nina Fanon, Nia Jax, as well as Matt Renwald, who have indicated numerous communications issues, in particular with Nia Jax, her indication that she was not going to appear, yet disappointed that she was continued to be advertised. In the immediate aftermath of this announcement, we had some response. Well, first of all, your reaction to it, Kate, from Montreal. Any surprise to you?
From the outset, when I first saw this card line up, I thought it was just someone kind of playing a prank on the internet, because it didn't seem realistic. I guess, as it went on, it seemed extremely ambitious, but you always had this sense that there was something off about it. So it doesn't entirely surprise me. I also understand that the ticket sales that they have were not great, despite some very high profile names on there. So
Something
I'm not
around
sure.
something around the range of 300 to 400 for a 10,000 seater arena. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
10,000 seats, that is beyond ambitious. Like, that is what AEW, that is just a little below what AEW was getting for their original pay-per-views. That's nuts.
Chelsea Green, one of the originally scheduled talent for the show, tweeted, "Instead of blaming the talent who took weeks off to come work for your new company under the impression you could be trusted, try refunding the fans and apologizing for your lack of organization." It is important to note that the promotion has alerted us, or at least alerted the public, that refunds will be issued to anybody who purchased a ticket or bought the event through Fight TV. Mojo Rawley, Dean Mutati says, "Unfortunate to see the cancellation of WES. I was very excited to step back in the ring and hyped to battle with Damo. I really feel for all the fans who had interest in the talent on this show. To anybody that bought a ticket, I will be doing a free meet and greet this Sunday so we can all have a great time regardless and stay hyped. For those that didn't buy a ticket to WES and come to the meet and greet, 100% of that money will go to pay the local UK talent that were supposed to be on the show, as I've learned that they have not yet been paid." So Mojo Rawley, Dean Mutati stepping in and trying to make things right, at least for the local talent and the fans who might have decided to show up without a show to go to now. So, so that is the latest and potentially the last we may hear of WES.
Yeah, I don't know how you bounce back from that as a promotion. This is your first show, and this has been a very public falling out with a number of the talents. So it's just it's a poor advertisement for your ability to manage your business.
Over to WWE Raw ratings on the 4th of July. This show coming off of Money in the Bank, courtesy of Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics and Showbuzz Daily. WWE Raw on the 4th of July on the USA Network attracted 1,563,000 viewers with a 0.37 and an 18 to 49 demo rating. The show took a major hit. This was the second lowest 18 to 49 audience on record for Raw. Nonetheless, it still managed to maintain its #1 ranking on cable this Monday, which marks 4 consecutive weeks for WWE Raw at the top of the cable ratings. Kate, it beat out the hot dog eating contest on ESPN, beat Wimbledon, beat 4th of July.
With the hot dog eating contest.
That is correct. Head-to-head hot dog eating contest we had on Monday. Any insight to gain from this from your perspective?
I think that the number was expected to be low. Like, we all knew that was going to happen. The one that landed on the July 4th weekend last year was extremely low. I think it might have been their lowest ever. I'm increasingly under the impression that what will matter in the long term is not even necessarily the actual number of viewers, because that's largely affected by trends overall in the industry, but where a show is positioned. Like you said, they're first in cable. That is more important. Like, if the entire cable industry or cable is sliding as a whole, if you're still at the top of the mountain, then that's what network executives are going to manage, are going to look at. I think that the overall issue of viewership is an industry problem, and that's way out of the control of any one company or any one program.
Over to some AEW news we have from Tony Khan, who confirmed on Busted Open Radio on Wednesday the injury to Santana. Of course, those of us who watched the Blood and Guts match saw Santana suffer a terrible-looking injury as he was delivering a Uranagi and did not take part in the closing celebrations of the match. Tony Khan on Busted Open Radio on Wednesday said, "Of course, hopefully it won't be too long, but I think it could be a relatively long injury. So it could be a while that Santana is out, but we're here for him for whatever he needs and certainly appreciate everything he's done for AEW. It is unfortunate that the Blood and Guts match does come with injuries, and it was a knee injury that he suffered, and hopefully he'll be back relatively soon." So Unfortunately, we add another name to the growing list of injuries suffered by talents thus far. So that is the latest on Santana. Your thoughts, Kate, on AEW Dynamite last night?
I thought that it was, I wouldn't rate that as one of their strongest shows. It was solid. I didn't love everything on it. And I would say certainly after the sort of crazy energy coming off Forbidden Door, which was so good, and then Blood and Guts last week, this was always going to feel like a bit of a come down. I really liked the main event, although I agreed with you and John that they really needed to do a little more to build up Brody King. And as much as I did like the main event, I didn't even think that that showcased him at the full range of his abilities. He is just excellent in ring, and aside from being the big monster, is remarkably dexterous, remarkably nimble for a guy that size. And I hope that he is able to uh, get a higher profile. I mean, this is the AEW. I don't know I don't even know what to say anymore, because yeah, you want everyone to have a higher profile. I did see some footage that they did sort of an angle after the show went off the air, where Malachi Black came out to, I guess, sort of commiserate with him, but then Darby Allin and Sting also came out to kind of and were sort of friendly, were conciliatory towards him. So I'm curious to see if they do anything with that. I don't see why they would have done it if there wasn't a plan. Other than that, yeah, the Christian promo, I think, is what a lot of people are going to remember that show for. I kind of conflicted on it. I think that in terms of the delivery and the presentation, his heel work is excellent. But look, we criticized WWE for doing the angle with Jeff Hardy and Sheamus that made light of his problems with addiction. One of the people who criticized that vocally at the time online was Rebby Hardy. So this is something, I don't know what they were going for. And if you're going to do something like this, the issue of the consent of the person who is being ridiculed is very important. And I'd want some kind of assurance that they had gotten that. And yeah, and look, some people will not have a problem with it. I'm bothered by it myself, but it's not like I'm saying it's the worst thing I've ever seen on television.
Yeah, it certainly seems to be the biggest talking point coming off of that show. And if you're Christian, perhaps you expect something like this. You expect to push buttons with your current character, much in the same way that characters like MJF have done in the past. And I suppose the fact that we're talking about him indicates that it is working. But the bigger conversation is, if your AEW, is this the sort of press that you ultimately want? Again, should Jeff Hardy go through something like this, or another talent go through something like this in the past? And for audiences like you, Kate, I'm sure many are kind of struggling, or at least having that conflict within themselves, because when it's the WWE, they know not to give them the benefit of the doubt in any sort of way. With AEW, how is that different? Should it be different? Should it not?
I think the fact that they were very quick out of the gate to say that they'd helped him get into rehab, like what role they're playing in that, I think is something we don't really know. But they certainly seemed to step up to the plate and present themselves as being very supportive in a way that I don't think WWE necessarily has with Hardy or with other talents. My issue, I think, goes back to, this is an industry that has had major problems with addiction and substance use, in the same way that I didn't love Max Caster in his rap last year making jokes about a survivor of sexual assault. There are certain things where I think you have to look at the industry and how bad it has been on certain issues and think that, is this the wisest area to mine for heel heat? There's a lot of other things you can touch on.
Also coming off of Dynamite, we have our latest matches announced for Ring of Honor's Death Before Dishonor. I believe, actually, maybe our first time hearing about matches announced for Death Before Dishonor. This takes place on July 23rd, only a few weeks away from Lowell, Massachusetts, with tickets going on sale this Friday. And currently for this card, we have Samoa Joe defending the ROH World TV Championship against Jay Lethal. We have also announced last night Wheeler Yuta versus Daniel Garcia for the Pure title. By the way, IWTV has uploaded their 60-minute match for free. That is up there right now, I believe, on YouTube. So if you guys want to check out a preview of this much buzzed about, for many people, a match of the year candidate, if not a match of the year from last year between Yuta and Garcia, you can go and check that out right now. Also, FTR issued a challenge to the Briscoes, so presumably we're going to get that rematch. We've yet to hear of an opponent for Jonathan Gresham, nor Mercedes Martinez. At least, we don't even know Mercedes is going to be on the card, but with her being champion, you would assume that she would have some role. Your thoughts on the card so far, Kate?
I think it looks very solid. I'll be very curious to see how many people they can draw in. They're booked in a fair size arena for a Ring of Honor show, and I don't know if you have the power there yet. I don't think you do have the star power there yet to really compel audiences to tune in. I will, but I'm a geek. Personally, I'm really looking forward to seeing Yuta versus Daniel Garcia. I think that's going to be a great match, and will help build on the momentum that both, especially Yuta, have managed to establish. I think you and John made this point. A lot of this is going to hinge on the opponent for Gresham and who they find to do that. Mercedes Martinez, they've given a fair amount of time to the women's title on AEW programming, either both on TV and on YouTube. Sort of thought that they were edging towards her versus Serena Deeb. Now, with the sort of the inclusion of more women's tag team matches and women's tag teams, I'm wondering if they're going to move away from that, because she and Deeb sort of have a program as can they coexist partners.
The Songa Center in Lowell holds 6,500. I don't know what for which I guess setting 6,500 is for, but you would assume around that ballpark for
yeah, I think that's
wrestling.
it. I think they said like 6,000 for like hockey or something like that, where it takes up the entire floor. So yeah, 6,500 seems reasonable.
So that is the latest on Death Before Dishonor. Presumably, maybe coming off a Rampage, we might even hear about what Gresham's role might be on the show, because he will be featured in a match. Lee Moriarty, I suppose, right? Like, is that big enough though? For probably not big
I
enough.
don't think so. You want some star power. I think that you really need something like it almost kind of starts the level of a Claudio Castagnoli. And then like you have to look at stars really on that level, because you're depending on them to pull viewers.
We have some super chats to get to before we get out of here, Kate, and the first of which comes to us from Rory, who sends $8 Australian. Thank you for the support, Rory. He says, it's crazy that the moment you started the British Grand Prix at the end, the PM would resign. Crazy. I could see Sasha wanting to go to Japan. Her and Jade, please. Yes. Yes, our plan, by talking about the British Grand Prix. Sasha
and taking down the government.
Do you see, I mean, I think everybody would assume if Sasha is to stick in wrestling, her ultimate destination would be AEW, but do you see her taking a bit of an excursion over to Japan for any particular reason?
Absolutely, and I can't see her signing anywhere that wouldn't allow her to go to Japan. She has been very vocal about what a fan of Japanese wrestling she is. She went over during the last break she took from WWE. She went over and did work with Meiko Satomura's promotion. So yeah, I think that absolutely, if she decides to stick with wrestling, there is going to be some time in Japan.
It would make whatever integration there'd be with Stardom in New Japan of America very attractive to her going forward. So yeah, she could really go anywhere. I'm sure people will create a women's division for her if one doesn't exist, in order to have her be a part of their company. I'm sure. Dan McRae sends $5. He says, "Hey Kate, who are the Habs taking first overall tonight? Shane Wright, or you're gonna have to help me with this one. Juraj
Juraj Slafkovsky.
Okay.
I do not follow the draft terribly well. I'm going to go with Slarkovsky. I'd like to see that. I'm more inclined to go with him than Shane Wright.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Rory is sponsor of the show today. He sends another super chat. Thank you so much, Rory. He says the New Japan presser was fun. Happy to see Oceania mentioned, though they forgot about us. Hope Japanese promotions work together more. Tana, Hiromu, Okan, funny. So Australia, I suppose, is not technically a part of Oceania and was not mentioned. They did mention New Zealand, so I would assume that would include Australia. I would have to. I hope to think, a tour.
I think for that, I think they're probably meaning to include Australia in that for those purposes. They have, yeah, I mean, look, they have one of their top stars from New Zealand. They have a couple of high profile Australians working with them, and they have obviously some deep connections with the islands there. Fale running his dojo. So.
Rory's last super chat of the day. Thank you so much for the support, Rory. He says, last one, guys. Super pumped for the ROH pay-per-view. The graphics, the look is amazing. I hope they do a great attendance, and I hope that a TV deal is imminent. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on the new ROH logo and the look itself, Kate? Any feelings?
I have I like this one better than I liked the sort of test one that came out a little while ago. This is the stupidest thing, though. It's just, to my eye. To me, if you look at the R, I really want that first vertical line to be the one that sort of goes down, and it so it almost forms like a bridge. And this is just me being super anal retentive. But
wait. You mean you want the R and the H to bridge? Is that what you're saying? What are you saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
you want a little...
the first vertical line and the last vertical line should be the ones that drop below the others. I don't know why this bothers me so much, but it really it's wins. I think that they've done a very good job of creating a look that's distinctive from AEW and that has that's very effective.
I'm a big fan of it personally. I love the fact that it I think Tony Khan, we know, was a big Ring of Honor fan, as were, I think, many of us who are, following wrestling that wasn't WWE in the mid 2000s. And it seems like him buying this company is very much a way of him sort of reliving the nostalgia of that period and wanting to bring this company back to that glory phase where it was, guys like Joe and Danielson and Punk really leading the charge. And I feel like this is a logo that calls back to it, brings back some of those warm, fuzzy feelings of that era while indicating, a bit more of a kind of modern, cleaner, more professional approach. And they have a fantastic graphics team, whoever they're employing for Impact, or sorry, for AEW as well here in Ring of Honor. The graphics look tremendous. I look forward to seeing what sort of like on-screen presentation we'll get that might be different. This will be the first show that Tony Khan is putting together with his new team here. And TV,
I'm very curious to see the staging too, like how they'll make the actual venue look.
Yeah, I mean, this is very much his attempt, I would say, at doing a brand split. And a big part of that is hoping, that he makes a visual aesthetic changes that separate the brand from AEW. So we'll be watching with a lot of curiosity on July 23rd. Rory also sorry, I'm here to clarify before I get flamed anymore. Rory says Australia is a part of Oceania Way. So what do you mean, Rory, by them not mentioning you in particular? Because they did mention Oceania. So I'm just going by what you tweeted, Rory. So you can let us know. You don't even have to super chat it. You could just let us know tomorrow. Kate, a pleasure as always. Thank you so much for stepping in.
Thank you so much.
Where can people hear more of you?
You can find me on Twitter. I am She Rants About Wrestling, which is at She Rants MTL. And you'll see me there pretty frequently.
Yes, She Rants at MTL. Kate will also be joining me here on Monday because it'll be Max's birthday. So John will be taking some time off for that. So she will be back here on Post Daily News very shortly. John will return tomorrow. Tonight, I've got an edition of MCU Later with WH Park. And joining us will be Rich Fan over at postwrestlingcafe.com talking about episode 5 of Ms. Marvel. I'll also be watching Thor Love and Thunder a little bit later this afternoon, one of the early screenings. So I will not spoil it, but maybe I'll give some preliminary thoughts tonight on MCU later. So join us at postwrestlingcafe.com. You can follow me at way0937. And I will talk to you guys, including those of you in Oceania, which I'm told Australia is a part of, a little bit later. Bye-bye.